Hey y'all! On this warm day today, I am super excited because we are getting to plant the first thing in the garden for 2024. So before I do that, I need to get as much of the garden weeded as I can. I'm mainly just focusing around the trellis and the fence that we have, and we are going to grow peas to grow up those. Another thing we need to do is move this fence in this third garden bed. I have debated back and forth whether or not I should do this, and I've finally just decided I'm going to try it and see if I like it. So we are going to move the fence more to the middle. That way I can plant peas on both sides, and I'll still have space on both sides to plant other things too. I was super happy that it had rained the day before. It made getting these posts up a whole lot easier. I'm not sure if I would have been able to do that had it not. They might have been easy to get out of the ground, but as you can tell, I was struggling to get them back in. So I went inside to get a hammer. I was hoping that that would work, and I told Robert what I was doing, and he's like, "You're doing what?" So of course he came outside and helped me, and we started off with a hammer to try and get it in, and it started to spark, put little metal sparks everywhere. So poor Robert's like, "This isn't gonna work." So I went out and dug out the post hole driver, and we had to use it inverted because we still had the fence on there, but he was able to get that put in for me since I wasn't able to do it. Also, since there was two of us there, we were able to pull the fence and get it nice and tight. It was not tight whenever I was trying to do it by myself, so I was really happy that he came out to help because it made it look so much better. Now that we got this fence all sorted, I just need to weed and also loosen up the soil a little bit. I have this tool. It's called a stirrup hoe. I got it a few years ago, and oh my goodness, it has quickly became my favorite new tool. It is really great for weeding, and it also loosens up the soil too, and it is so much less work than just doing it by hand, and really saves on your back and helps a whole lot with that. Now comes the fun part. We get to plant the peas. So far, out of all the ones that I've grown, this is my favorite, the sugar magnolia tendril peas. And I plant my peas pretty heavy. I like a wall almost of peas. I think it looks really pretty. So what I do is on each side of the arbor there, I plant peas every few inches apart, and I plant them about to my first knuckle down and make sure that they're all covered up with soil. Another thing I do is plant based on my garden planting calendar. This has made a huge difference for my garden as a whole, but I have really seen a big difference in the peas especially. So I usually try and plant my peas around mid-March. There have been some years where I planted it a little bit later because we had frost in the forecast, and I didn't want the little baby starts to struggle or possibly die, so I have waited later on, but I generally shoot for around mid-March. And last year I bought, I think, 3 or 4 packages of these sugar magnolia tendril peas from Baker Creek, and I planted them all where we have the arbor and the fences, and they were amazing. It looks so beautiful, and we ended up using some of the peas. I didn't save an awful lot for frozen use, and we did use some for fresh, but most of them I just saved the seeds from, and we had so many peas. That little purple bag I had to make because we had so many peas and I needed something to store them in. The other day I was looking at our old garden tours from last year, trying to get an idea of where I might want to plant things this year, and I was laughing at myself so much. I was saying that these peas and also another nasturtium that I grew last year were like my favorite plants, and I would probably never grow anything else. This is going to be in the garden for forever. I'll only grow this one. And I am laughing at myself because I am so eating my words. Over this winter, I found a variety of pea that is purple, just like our sugar magnolia tendril peas that I love so much. But the ones that we grow, the sugar magnolia ones, they turn green whenever you cook them. But this new variety I learned about stays purple even after you cook it. So I am super excited to try that. I don't have it this year because I saved all of these seeds, but hopefully we'll get to try that variety sooner rather than later. And they also, with the nasturtiums, the ones last year I had were beautiful. They were a trailing nasturtium and it had this beautiful dark red flower on it. But this year, Baker Creek had a purple nasturtium, and I am a sucker for purple. So think I'm just gonna say that this is my new favorite variety. That instead of saying that this will forever be my favorite, then that's the good thing about growing your plants from seeds is there is so many options out there compared to whatever you get at like Walmart or your farm stores. There is so much available online, and there are so many really cool varieties. Some of them are tailored specifically for your growing area and do amazing. So that is the really fun thing, is you can try all kinds of new things and see what does really good and what doesn't. And just keep, another thing to do is to keep a journal. That helps a lot with remembering all of these things, and you can even jot down like dates and things like that. That's how I remember to plant my peas around mid-March-ish. So those are other things to keep in mind, but it is really funny sometimes. You don't realize the things that you say and you're like, oh, I'm eating my words now. Another thing is I don't like to pre-soak my peas. I know a lot of people do that, and a lot of people soak them overnight. And I found whenever I was trying to put them into the ground that they almost would mash and they wouldn't sprout because they were damaged. So I found that it is a lot easier to just plant them and either water them in, or if you're lucky enough, plant them before a storm is coming, and then they just get rained on, and it's super simple. So this day I was in a race against the storms. I was trying to get all of the peas planted before it rolled in. Robert had sent the editor out and told them to tell me that if you hear thunder, to get inside. Well, I heard thunder quite a bit, and I didn't listen. I was bound and determined to get these peas planted because I really love how this looks, and it's really, really important to me, and I enjoy it so much. So I thought I would just ask for forgiveness instead and get everything planted, and it worked out fine. I was able to get them all done with no problems with the storms, and it ended up raining, and I think we got a little over an inch of rain, and they're already growing and doing really good. Now we are several days later, and oh man, this day was such a struggle session. We had already been all around the property trying to find a shovel. Do y'all ever do that where you just lose your tools in the yard and you have to spend forever trying to find them? Well, at this point we had not found it. I ended up finding it at dark, headed back into the house. I must have been digging the thistle plants out. I like to dig them up before they go to seed because them things really hurt, and I guess I just worked till I couldn't take it anymore and I dropped the shovel, but I ended up finding it, so that is good. And then before I started filming this, I was moving some boards and I ended up finding another snake. So if I don't look the happiest, it was a rough day. But what I'm doing here is adding some amendments to the bed here. I'm using alfalfa pellets, and I wasn't able to get any compost or anything like that, so I'm just adding this so it has a little bit of something extra. Also, I end up working a little bit smarter rather than harder and finally get a pitcher to move all of this instead of just my hands. Now I'm moving on to the ground cover, and this just added to the struggle session. They packaged this really, really well because I was not able to get this thing unwound. It was wrapped like 3 or 4 times, super tight, and I just could not get it. So I went in to get another tool. I completely forgot to turn the camera back on. Thank you to Robert for checking that for me and making sure it was running, because I would not have got any of this if it wasn't for him. Also, he came out and helped me and got all of that ground cover unwrapped from the packaging. He was able to do it a lot better than I was and was able to get it for me and everything. New this year, we're going to experiment with this ground cover that performed the best last year. We're going to put it on the garden beds to see if that helps with the weeds. I had a really big issue with weeds last year. I was really bad about weeding, and also I think I just grew the garden way too fast because there are so many weeds. I just can't keep up with it, and the weeds grow really crazy here. And we have some weeds like Bermuda grass and nutgrass and crabgrass. We have all of these really invasive grasses that are super hard to get rid of. So I'm kind of on my last ditch effort here to try and use ground cover to see if that can help, because it is out of this world insane to deal with all of these weeds. But hopefully this will be my saving grace, and this will help keep the weeds down at a manageable level. So my plan for this garden bed is to plant winter squash down the middle of it, and then I'm going to plant potatoes on either side of it. I've got two different varieties of potatoes. One of them is the Yukon Golds, and one of them is the Red Pontiac. Big disclaimer here, I am no expert and this is not a tutorial. I don't know what it is about potatoes, but I have struggled with them so much. I have grown a bunch of different varieties and I cannot get it right. I don't know what I am doing wrong. I really wanted to get the Kennebec variety. I know that has done really well in my area, but I've even grown that one before and still struggled, so I'm not really sure. So if y'all have any tips, I am all ears because I do not know what I'm doing wrong. What I'm trying new this year though, I'm adding of course the alfalfa pellets, and also as I make the hole, I'm going to add in some blood meal. I don't know if that's good for potatoes. I just know it's kind of a good all-purpose thing to add for root vegetables. So I'm doing that, but I honestly don't know what I'm doing wrong, and it may not work. I know a lot of people do the healing up of them, but I think that's only if they're like an indeterminate or determinate variety. I don't know. I'm still new to this and trying to figure these out. So if y'all have any tips, please leave them down below in the comment section, because I need all the help I can get whenever it comes to potatoes. But I'm not giving up. I keep trying every year, and one of these times I'm gonna figure it out. That's another thing about gardening, is it is a really fun challenge. I know there are several things that I really struggled with for a long time, one of them being moringa. It took me for forever to figure out how to get that started. Another thing, I struggled with certain flower seeds, and this year I think I have figured it out with the flowers what I was doing wrong to get them to grow good. But it is really rewarding whenever you finally figure it out after struggling for a really long time, and it's just another skill that you can add and you learn, and it is so fun. I am always learning. I learn all kinds of new things, and that's the good thing about YouTube, is you can find people who are like-minded and whenever you have the same interest, you're able to learn so much. You learn all the different things that they do, and especially if you can find someone locally too, that is amazing, because they can really help you, especially with dates. I know a lot of people go a lot by the growing zone, but I really think having someone local is the way to go, because you can learn so much and it really can change. Like, you may be more up on a hill and they may be in a valley, and you'll have to plant quite a bit different as far as your date, so it can make a big difference. Another thing I did in front of all of these garden beds is I moved all of the daffodils that were in that little strip next to our herb garden. I moved all of those in front of the garden beds here, and I also put them in the flower garden. So next spring it should look absolutely beautiful with all of the daffodils blooming. But that's all I've got planted in the garden right now: peas and potatoes. but I have a lot of other plants already started and they're doing really good, but it's a good thing we don't have them planted in the garden yet because this week there are several days that it's going to get into the 30s and they would not like that very much. So hopefully the peas and potatoes will be good enough and can hold out and handle those colder days, but I think they'll probably be alright. Thank y'all so much for spending some time with me today. And if y'all have any tips on the potatoes, I'm all ears and would love to hear any of your suggestions. Thank y'all all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Y'all take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye!